So is it just me, or are they really using She-Hulk to subtly announce things that will come in the future in the MCU? Because say it with me, with episode 4, I'm like, so we're getting Mephisto, right? And welcome to my Safe Gayven, everybody. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this late video and joining me for another spoiler-filled review for She-Hulk episodes 4 and 5. If you have not come across any of my videos before, make sure you check out my other videos on my channel. Watch, like, share, comment, interact for the all gay rhythm. But hey, let me introduce myself. My name is Michael. I call myself the BlackGayComicGeek, and I say the things that I love to talk about on my channel has blood, sex, gore, and magic, or any variation of the four. So I like to talk about superheroes. I like to talk about comic books. I like to talk about action movies. I like to talk video games. I like to talk about sci-fi. I like to talk about fantasy. And I like to talk about Black representation and queer representation. We'll get to that. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you think representation equals normalization, and you think representation matters, and you love the fact that there is a Black gay man reviewing fantasy content, entering a different perspective here in the YouTube space, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I'm like spitting all over the place. What is going on? Good thing nobody's in front of me. But yeah, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're a regular or whether you're a new person, hit the like button. It'll help with the YouTube algorithm so I continue to grow this channel and go from 6,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 to a million to a bazillion. But anyway, if you couldn't tell from the title of this episode, I'm combining both episodes 4 and 5 into this one review because it's been a pretty busy week the last couple of weeks, because episode 4 came out last week when on the day I was flying to LA to go to D23. Again, if you guys haven't come across my channel or you're not following me on my other social medias, I did get the opportunity to go to D23. If you're following me on Twitter, you got to see all my live updates. So because I was in Anaheim that weekend, I was busy, wasn't able to review episode 4. And then episode 5 just came out like 3 days ago. So I'm going to combine both of them. So episode 4 is called Is This Not Real Magic? And it seems like this is kind of an Easter egg where you got this 2-bit magician called Donnie Blaze. And I'm like, really, Marvel? Which is an allusion to Johnny Blaze, who is the original Ghost Rider. And I'm just like, again, is this a hint that you guys will be eventually introducing Ghost Rider into this show? And so he was a potential magician or sorcerer to go to Kamar-Taj, but apparently he got kicked out. But before he left Kamar-Taj, he stole a sling ring. And so he's using the sling ring to further his career as a magician. And it's not until he sent Madison, who I didn't understand what she meant by, she was like, my name is Madison. It's with the Y and 2 N's, but it's not where you think. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's spelled Madisynn. And then I looked on the internet, and that's exactly how her name is spelled. So I'm like, I guess maybe she's drunk. I don't know. But I was just like, I don't get it. But Madison and Wong, I'm like, give me a spinoff with the two of them because I like their chemistry together, even though it was still kind of stupid. But it was a fun kind of stupid. And that's the thing that I do like about this show. Like, I know a lot of people are complaining about the fact that there isn't really that much in terms of superheroics in this show. And I'm like, well, hey, that's kind of very in line with the She-Hulk comic. Like, the She-Hulk comic isn't all that superhero-y. It's basically the day in the life of her as a lawyer and being a person with superpowers. And that's the thing I like about the show, that this show is introducing, that not everybody in this show, or not everybody in the Marvel universe that has powers, is a superhero. Like, you jump to episode 5 with Titania, she has powers, but she's not a superhero or even a supervillain. She's a superpowered influencer. And I feel like that also opens the door somewhat to the X-Men. There are people that are just existing in this world with powers, but that doesn't necessarily make them superheroes or supervillains. And I like the fact that this show is doing that and introducing us to that concept, because yeah, right now she is not She-Hulk the superhero, She-Hulk the member of the Fantastic Four, She-Hulk the member of the Avengers. Yes, that's going to eventually come down the line, because we know we're going to see Jen Walters in the movies. But right now for this show, it is She-Hulk attorney at law. And so I like the fact of seeing her with these superpowers and these superhero circumstances, trying to live a normal, regular, everyday life while people around her are trying to interact and live everyday, normal lives despite the supernatural circumstances of the world. And so with that, you got Wong trying to take this man to court, Donnie Blaze, because he stole the sling ring. And part of while I was watching it, I mean, and I'd watch it again because it's been a little while since I've seen it, and so I was ready to record this review. I was like, hey, I feel like because Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme. I'm like, I feel like the Sorcerer Supreme wouldn't deal with this two-rate magician. Doesn't he have like a whole army of magicians? Like, there's a Sanctum Sanctorum in New York. There's a Sanctum Sanctorum in London. Shanghai, I think. There were 4 of them in Doctor Strange. I don't remember. And then, of course, Nepal. I feel like one of his underlings would take care of something like that. But, you know, you got to have a Wong cameo. So, yeah. But then I was also like, why is he taking them to human court, though? Wouldn't it be like, if you're a magician, can't you just, like, remove the sling ring, take him to, like, a magical court? But again, She-Hulk attorney at law. Got to make it work. And then the last criticism out there, again, it's just random stuff I was thinking about. But then also I'm like, how legitimate is like using the American legal system for the supernatural? Because we saw on, what was it, episode 2 or 3, when why can't I think of the name? Damage Control, when Wong showed up and admitted that he removed Abomination from his cell, and they were like, you know, you just admitted to a crime, right? You could be held liable for that. And Wong was just like, I'm out. So it's like, if you're dealing with these, and granted, I guess Donnie Blaze is a normal person. He doesn't have that much power, but I'm like, how legitimate is it following supernatural or American law when you could just basically hide in another dimension or whatever? Speaking of another dimension, the most important thing I want to talk about with regards to episode 4 is I definitely feel like, granted, of course, we've been saying it since WandaVision. Who knows if it's actually going to happen, but I feel like it would make the most sense for this character to show up in the MCU. I want him in the MCU, but Mephisto, like when the character of Madison was put on trial, she said she made a deal with a demon and she can't really talk about it. Otherwise, he's going to reap her soul or whatever. And in the MCU, the one character that we know, the main antagonist that we have in the MCU, or not the MCU, but Marvel Comics, that deals in the trading of souls, is Mephisto. He is not the only one, but he is the main one. And like I said back on WandaVision, it would make way more sense for Mephisto to exist in the Marvel universe because he connects to so many characters than any other character that they try to introduce. Because again, he connects to Wanda in the fact that her kids were created from aspects of Mephisto's soul. He connects to Doctor Doom, and we know we're getting Doctor Doom in the Fantastic Four because he stole Doctor Doom's mother's soul, and Doctor Doom fights for his mother's soul every year. I think like Halloween to try to win his mother's soul back. Mephisto has had connections to Spider-Man with the whole Brand New Day. Granted, they kind of did that with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but still, there's that connection. Mephisto also connects to Loki. Like, Mephisto has had so many different interactions with so many different characters throughout the Marvel cosmology that I'm just like, yeah, sure. He's had interactions and dealings with Doctor Strange. Like, give me Mephisto. Hell, I'm pretty sure Mephisto, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure Mephisto's probably interacted with Kang the Conqueror in the comics at one point. Or if he hasn't, you could have him do it in the MCU. Mephisto has fought Galactus, and we know they can't do Fantastic Four and not do Galactus and eventually Silver Surfer, especially since I do remember them saying they wanted to dive more into the Marvel cosmic side in these next phases in the MCU, which I'm surprised that they, with saying that, we still haven't heard anything from Guardians 3, and they haven't even announced like a Nova Corps movie. Also, speaking of something I said I would get back to, talking about queer representation, is Marvel once again doing the bare minimum, because I saw an article praising Marvel because Jen's best friend, I can't think of her name, but apparently she's queer, because there's a reference in this episode where she's trying to help Jen with her dating profile, and she says something about, heterosexual dating is so grim. Yay, representation! And it's like, oh yeah, Marvel's so... And I'm like, I didn't even notice that, and it wasn't until I read this article, and I'm like, that's all I noticed, queer subtext and all that other stuff. And I'm like, I didn't even notice that watching this episode. And it's not till I went back to rewatch it and I was just like, oh, that's it? Like, I'm supposed to be happy about this? Like, get the fuck out of here. But anyway, wrapping it up, because I do have another episode to get to. The episode you see She-Hulk. She ends up sleeping with some guy. And then he wakes up the next morning and realizes that, and of course, the whole world knows that Jen Walters is She-Hulk, but he sees her in her Jen Walters form. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm going to go. I'm not attracted to you as Jen Walters. And he even says that in episode 5. He's like, I'm not attracted to Jen Walters. I'm attracted to She-Hulk. But I'm like, but you know she's She-Hulk. So, like, you can get the best of both worlds. And she's a superhero. Like, you stupid. You a fool for that. But, you know, whatever. So then we jump to episode 5, and it's called Mean, Green, and Straight Poured Into These Jeans. And it picks up where episode 4 ends off, where you find out that Titania, played by Jamila, can't remember her name. I think her first name is Jamila. She's one of the only reason I know her is because she's one of the judges on the HBO reality show Legendary. But she basically trademarked the name She-Hulk, and so now she's suing Jennifer Walters, which, let this be a lesson for you out there, folks. If you have a name or whatever, make sure if you don't have the money to get a trademark, because that is expensive. Like, I trademarked BlackGayComicGeek and I trademarked Welcome to My Safe Gayven. So if anybody out there tries to use Welcome to My Safe Gayven, you will hear from my lawyer, She-Hulk, attorney at law. Actually, I should do She-Hulk, attorney at law. But yeah, if you don't have the money for a trademark, make sure you have some type of proof that you were publicly using it and referring to yourself as it, so that it's I guess, what's it called? Like a backwater way to trademark. I guess that's not the right way to do it, but yeah. I think it's the same thing when it comes to publishing and copyright. Like, if you don't have the money to actually copyright it with the government, if you like mail a copy to yourself of the book or whatever without opening it, and it has the date on it, and you could prove that that date is before somebody else's, that is another way of proving your rights as a publisher. Anyway, this is not a legal channel. This is a comic book nerd fantasy channel. So yeah, but like, so yeah, so she's suing her for the use of the name She-Hulk. And so that's basically what this episode is about, trying to for Jennifer Walters to try to get the name She-Hulk back, despite her pretending that she doesn't like the name. Now it's kind of stuck. Kind of like how it is with a song. You first listen to a song, you're like, I don't really care for it. But then you hear it enough times, you're like, I kind of like it now. But also with it, I feel like this episode is the slow start of the journey of seeing Jennifer Walters become the She-Hulk that we know from the comics. Because in the comics, when Jennifer Walters became She-Hulk, she became way more confident in herself, to the point that she didn't even want to be Jennifer Walters anymore. She wanted to stay She-Hulk all the time. And then not only just that, but when you even look at like the post-credit scenes, you see moments like the illustration of like She-Hulk at the gym taking a selfie in like her workout clothes. And like, that's who She-Hulk is. And right now we haven't really seen her. Like, she prefers to be Jennifer Walters as opposed to She-Hulk. And that's not how it is in the comics. So you see her going, or her friend pushing her to like get better clothes and look better than the little long baggy lawyer clothes that she's wearing. She's probably going to start wearing more form-fitting clothes that we know her to wear in the comics. And speaking of another Easter egg drop, like the whole episode being about trademarking the name She-Hulk, that's actually an allusion to the creation of the character of She-Hulk, because Stan Lee created the character of She-Hulk so he could have the rights to the trademark. Because if you remember, or not if you remember, because I highly doubt there were that many people that are watching this channel that were watching this show, because I wasn't even born back then, but I still know of the show. But the 1970s version of The Incredible Hulk starring Lou Ferrigno, while that show was on the air, CBS, who owned the rights to the show, they were talking about introducing a spinoff of that show with another character that they were going to call, I don't know if they were going to call, yeah, they were going to call her She-Hulk. It was going to be the female version of the Hulk. However, if CBS made that as a spinoff, that would have meant CBS would have owned the rights to that character and that trademark. And so Stan Lee knew that he could put out a comic way before they could put out a television show with production budget, CBS, CG, or not CGI, because they didn't have that back then, but like casting and all that stuff. So he beat CBS to the punch by creating the She-Hulk comic And so now Marvel owned the rights to She-Hulk. And so that's basically an allusion to that. Like trademarking She-Hulk, there you go. Also with that, like I feel like the most important thing for this episode is like didn't even happen in the episode. It happened during the credits where because you talk about how Puck or Pug, he has like an entire shoe collection of like superhero like he talked about getting the Iron Man 3s. And so you saw an illustration of his entire shoe collection. He was showing Nikki, and you saw him holding the Iron Man 3s, but in the background you saw a shoe for Ben Grimm's The Thing. You saw a shoe for Wolverine. You saw a shoe for Cyclops. You saw a shoe for Deadpool and a bunch of other Marvel characters. And I'm just like, again, are they using She-Hulk to subtly introduce all these things? And because I'm like, how does he have Cyclops and Wolverine? And we also mentioned, I mentioned in episode 2 where they did talk about, I mean, he's probably not the Wolverine that we know, but they say man with metal claws gets in bar fight. Who in Marvel Comics has metal claws and usually frequents bars? Wolverine, Logan. So Pug might not actually have a Cyclops shoe because I doubt the X-Men exist yet, but it's definitely telling us that mutants are coming because we know Deadpool 3 is coming. So I think that's just their way of kind of breaking the fourth wall to be like, don't worry guys, it's coming. It hasn't been announced yet. Speaking of fourth wall, it's something I'm glad I brought up because it's something I forgot to mention even with episode 4. This is one of my biggest problems with the show. Not problems, but something I wish they did more. I wish Jen broke the fourth wall more. I feel like she doesn't do it enough. And for this to be a lighthearted sitcom slice of life comedy, like, yeah, I feel like she should break the fourth wall more. But overall, I had fun with this episode. It wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it. And it kind of made me feel bad for Jen when she put all her exes or whatever on the stand for her to prove that she went by the name She-Hulk to win her case. And they were basically all just saying the same thing. Like, we love She-Hulk, but we don't really care for Jennifer. And it's like, damn, that kind of sucks. Like, you won the case, but at the same time, it doesn't make you feel good. It also kind of goes to show that in some ways she's kind of lonely, just like how the lawyer friend played by Renee Goldsberry, that we know from her from Hamilton, Angelica Schuyler. But yeah, like when she was like, yeah, we're best friends. And she was like, hold up now. Same thing with like, I would kill for you, Megan Thee Stallion. She's like, slow your roll. Like she's kind of lonely. Granted, she has Nikki, but like everybody wants a piece of her now for a reason because she's basically a celebrity now. Like hell, the whole reason she has a job now is because she's She-Hulk, not because of her qualifications. But yeah, and of course the episode ends with the Easter egg or tease that Daredevil is coming. And I was just like, really? Like, we didn't need this. Like, we already know Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is coming on the show. We didn't need this little teaser at the end. I was just like, all right, whatever. But the interesting note that I do find about that is it does kind of confirm, even though I think I kind of knew or speculated that anyway, at least to me, this confirms that the Netflix Daredevil show is its own separate thing, it's its own separate universe. So when we see Matt Murdock, even though he's still played by Charlie Cox in the MCU, everything that we know from the Netflix show, throw that away. Because why is this new guy, Lenny, I think his name is, I can't remember his name, but why is he making Daredevil's outfit? He already has a person in Netflix. And then also on top, or in New York. And then also on top of that, why is Daredevil in LA? Does that mean, because I mean, there are runs in the comics where Daredevil does go to California, and instead of him being the devil of Hell's Kitchen, I think he's fighting out of, I think it's LA, or it might be San Francisco. I don't remember where in California, but I do know it's in California. So I'm like, so maybe does Daredevil take place in this new incarnation in the MCU? Will he take place in California? Is he visiting California or what? But I mean, obviously, if he has a guy making him his suit, it's not the Netflix version. Otherwise, he would have had the other guy make the suit and then just come to California. But anyway, that's episodes 4 and 5. Like I said, I'm still really enjoying the show overall. I still feel like the CGI for She-Hulk was better in episodes 1 and 2 as opposed to 3, 4, and 5. Like, it still looks a little jarring. But I'm like, I feel like it should have been the opposite. I feel like episodes 1 and 2 should have been the worst. And then as we get later in the show, it slowly gets better and better because they have more time to work on it. But what do I know? I'm not a VFX artist. I don't know. But anyway, what did you guys think about episodes 4 and 5 of She-Hulk? Let me know all of your thoughts. Love it, hate it, whatever. but don't be misogynist. Give me legitimate criticisms. Because I will say, like, I do feel like despite liking the show, I'm not saying the show is perfect or whatever. I do feel like the show definitely has some pacing issues. And like I said, I wish that she broke the fourth wall more. But I will say, like, overall, like, to me, for the most part, because I will say this out there, because it's not like I just love everything that Marvel does. I will say, like, for the most part, none of the Disney Plus Marvel shows have been spectacular. There have been some spectacular episodes, like episode 4 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, but as a whole, every single Marvel show on Disney Plus has disappointed me somewhat by the end. So keeping it with that framework in mind, I think She-Hulk's pretty good. But anyway, what do you guys think about the show? Both episodes. What do you guys think about these episodes? Hopefully you made it to the end of this video. Watch, like, share, comment, interact for the All Gay Rhythm. If this is your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. I put up my review for the Barbarian, or just Barbarian. And I also talked a little bit about my experience with Black Panther at D23. And I did my react. I finally watched the teaser trailer, so check out those videos. Be sure to check out the other videos on my channel. I will also be reviewing The Woman King. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.